That night, Cleo had no idea everything was about to change. What started as the biggest dream of her life ended with a proposal that almost destroyed everything she believed in. All she wanted was a chance, a fair shot, but just one misinterpreted phrase made him see something else. And when the proposal came, it wasn't a job offer. It was an invitation to sell her dignity. What would you do if someone offered you everything you've ever wanted, in exchange for something you never imagined having to give up? Cleo always believed life didn't hand out favors. If you wanted something, you had to fight, hard. She grew up outside Chicago, an only child raised by a hardworking waitress mom pulling double shifts, and a dad who simply vanished. From a young age, she learned the hard way. Either you keep pushing, or life smacks you down. By 28, after countless sleepless nights studying programming and blasting out resumes, even to positions that didn't exist, she finally got the email that seemed like a joke, an interview at BlueNova Tech, one of New York's hottest startups. When she saw the company name in her inbox, she stared at it, rereading it 3 times. Is this even real? On the train to Manhattan, her heart felt like a drum, excited, terrified it might flop all at once. In her head, it was now or never. Maybe life was finally giving her the green light. The BlueNova reception felt like another universe. Sleek, minimalist, glass walls, motivational quotes like "think bigger" plastered everywhere. The receptionist gave a practiced smile, like she'd seen this scene before. When her name was called, Cleo's stomach dropped. She was about to be interviewed by the CEO, Dominic Rowe himself, the guy she'd seen on TED Talks preaching about exponential mindset. She'd always thought he was brilliant, but once inside that room, something froze. He didn't stand, just looked at her, unreadable. "So you're Cleo. The sharp mind from Chicago, huh?" She managed a shaky smile. Could have been a compliment or a challenge, she couldn't tell. The interview started technical, then took a sharp turn. Dominic wanted to dig deep, her values, her sacrifices, how far she'd go for a shot. He even used the phrase "power plays." Trying to stay light, she cracked a joke. "Hey, who hasn't thought about selling their soul for a decent paycheck, right?" She laughed, alone. Dominic gave a small smile, the kind that never reached the eyes, cold, measured, as if he'd just logged that line in his mental notes. The interview wrapped up so fast she barely processed it. No feedback, no promise, nothing. But as she left that room, one thing was crystal clear. This wasn't over. Not by far. Later that night, Cleo tossed and turned. The interview replayed in her mind. Every word, every silence, every look. Especially Dominic's. There was something there, underneath the professionalism, but what, exactly? The next morning, with dark circles and a coffee in hand, she sat squeezed into a cramped Soho cafe. Her phone buzzed, and the name that lit up her screen stopped her heart. Dominic Rowe. This wasn't a standard HR reply. It was personal. "I enjoyed our conversation. You have something rare. How about we continue this dialogue in a more informal setting? Dinner tonight. My assistant will handle the details." She stared at the message, mind spinning. Dinner? With the CEO? Feels off. But maybe it's normal networking here? Is this how it works? She rubbed her face, trying to think straight. Called her mom, but kept it vague, just that she was meeting important people. Honestly, she didn't know what was going on. That night, she arrived at the address, an upscale midtown rooftop restaurant. City lights everywhere, elegance at every corner. This wasn't just a dinner, it was a stage. Dominic was already seated in a dark suit. Casual, yet controlling. When she walked in, he stood just a bit. "Cleo, I wondered if you'd bail." She forced a smile. "And miss out on hearing more of your disruptive vision? Never." He chuckled, then shifted tone. "That comment from yesterday, about selling your soul for a decent paycheck. Was it a joke?" Cleo froze for a beat. "Of course, just a joke. We all say stuff like that, right?" He looked at her, unblinking. "Jokes reveal more than we think." She took a slow sip of wine, trying to steady her gut. He'd taken her line seriously, and seemed intrigued. At that moment, Cleo thought, did he misunderstand? Or did he catch exactly what he meant? The next morning dawned gray, and so did Cleo. The previous night haunted her. Was that dinner just business, or something else entirely? Dominic hadn't said it outright, but the vibe, the undertone, the comments, they all screamed that he saw her as more than a candidate. Around 9, her phone rang, unknown number. She nearly ignored it, but answered. "Good morning, Miss Jennings. I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Rowe. He'd like to invite you to a private event tonight on BlueNova's rooftop. It's a selective gathering of strategic guests. Your presence is expected." Expected. That word echoed in her head. "What's the event, exactly?" she asked, trying to sound businesslike. "An informal dinner with some board members and company partners. Mr. Rowe would like you there. A car will pick you up at 7 p.m. She hung up, unsure if this was an honor or a command, recognition or manipulation. She spent the day uneasy, digging through old interviews with Dominic, trying to figure out the pattern. The kind of CEO who mixes flattery with control. Found nothing that explained this experience. At 6:45 p.m., the black car arrived. Cleo exhaled and got in. She wore a simple dress, light makeup, hair tied back, firm but not flashy. The BlueNova rooftop looked straight out of a movie. Dim lights, elegant tables, champagne flowing, silent waiters, high-powered people, executives, investors, everyone she'd only read about. And there in the middle, Dominic. Same look like he already knew the ending. He approached calmly. "Glad you came. I knew you would." She held her smile, felt tension coil in her chest. "I thought it'd be interesting to see how decisions are made up close." He chuckled that enigmatic chuckle. "Let's talk. I have something to share. Something that could change everything for you." And in that moment, Cleo knew. This wasn't just another dinner. It was the start of something dangerous. Dominic led Cleo to a private corner of the rooftop, a lounge behind smoked glass, city lights spread out below, a table set, a bottle of fine wine waiting. The atmosphere screamed, "I planned this." She took her seat slowly, her gut twisting, not with hunger. He gazed at her with a half smile, unhurried. "Cleo, I'll be direct. People like you don't come around often. Smart, discreet, ambitious. I see potential. But more than that, I see guts." She stared right back. Emotion locked down. "BlueNova's about to take a huge leap. I want you close, not just as an employee, as a partner. Someone involved in real decision-making, beyond the boardroom. Someone by my side, in every sense." She blinked slowly, absorbing each word. "Are you offering me a position?" He shook his head, still smiling. "I'm offering access, influence, perks people would kill for. In exchange, discretion, a connection, a special partnership." She swallowed. "And what if I'm not interested?" Dominic stayed calm. "Officially, nothing changes. You can continue the regular process. But Cleo, doors shut fast in this world, especially for someone going it alone." She stared at her untouched wine glass, thought of her mother, all the sacrifices, the years grinding to get here, and all she'd already lost by trying to do it right. It was tempting and gross, simultaneously. "So this is how it works for you? Everything comes at a cost, except your control?" He smiled without replying. The silence stung harder than any answer. Cleo rose slowly, each step deliberate. "The offer's on the table. Now it's your move," he said at last. In that moment she realized he wasn't in a hurry. He just needed her to crack. One small break, and everything would be his. But she hadn't decided yet. She only knew one thing. If she said yes, she'd never look at herself the same way again. Cleo spent the rest of the night wandering Manhattan aimlessly. Her heels hurt, the wind bit, but she barely noticed. Her mind rattled with Dominic's words. Special partnership. Doors close. Everything can shift. She stumbled into the hotel, barely registering the lobby, threw her shoes aside and leaned against the wall. No tears, but she was suspended in a weird haze of anger, disgust, and a desperate urge to disappear. She grabbed her wallet, pulled out a worn photo of her and her mom from years back, standing in front of their beat-up trailer when Cleo was just a teenager. Her mother's tired smile still lit up the picture like love did. Cleo remembered her mom's favorite warning. Sweetie, if someone offers something too big, too fast, run, because that kind of gift always has a price. Her lips trembled. Her mother's voice throbbed in her chest, but the rest of the world was shouting something else. What if I'm turning down my only real shot? She lay awake the rest of the night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about years of hard work, closed doors, all those "we'll be in touch" that never came back. It was exhausting, to be honest. Exhausting to try and win without playing the ugly game. The next morning, she was sipping cold coffee when the front desk called. Miss Jennings, something was left for you. A black envelope, no name. Inside, a gold-lettered invitation. Exclusive BlueNova board executive dinner. And below, a handwritten note. The decision is yours, but be warned. Doors close faster than they open. She closed her eyes. Her blood boiled. This wasn't an invitation. It was a reminder of who was running the game. But Cleo was done running, and even more tired of bowing. That night, Cleo stared at herself in the mirror for a long time. This wasn't vanity. It was trying to remember who she was, before the proposal, before the hidden agendas, before the layers of second-guessing. She put on a black suit she'd barely worn. Hair tied back, minimal makeup. Her gaze was new. Not fear, but hardened resolve. The elevator carried her to the top floor of the BlueNova building. Doors opened onto a stage scene. Dim lights, soft music, champagne flowing, powerful people whispering. The kind of place where deals are struck off the record. Dominic saw her right away and approached, confident as ever. I'm glad you came. She nodded slightly, a controlled smile. Like someone who knows exactly what they'll do, but lets him think he's still in charge. Later, he mounted a small stage and made a toast. Innovation, courage, vision, spoken with that genius swagger. Then, pointedly, he mentioned her. Some people are rare. True bravery, pushing past limits. Like Cleo, for instance. Heads turned, and that's when everything shifted. She picked up her glass, walked toward the stage, climbed the 2 steps. Dominic watched, intrigued. He still thought he'd won. Cleo took the mic, breath steady. Tonight I received an offer. No salary, no contract, but promises and a steep price. A price that's too high. The room fell silent, Dominic frozen. They offered me a shortcut, a privileged seat, in exchange for silence, complicity, of me. Pause. The words hit like a punch. I didn't accept, and I won't. Because there are things we just don't negotiate. And if this closes doors, let them close. I'd rather stay outside than enter a place where I have to dim myself to fit. She handed the mic back and walked off stage. The room didn't move. Outside, the wind cut cold. But she felt something she hadn't in a long time. Lightness. Freedom. She'd said no. And now, it was her versus the world. But this time, head held high. After that night, the silence hit hard. No feedback, no HR follow-up, no nice meeting you. It was as if Cleo never stepped foot in BlueNova. Or worse, it was like she'd been erased. In the days that followed, other companies stopped responding too. Offers disappeared. Contacts ghosted her out of nowhere. The ugly reality. Dominic was pulling strings behind the scenes, shutting one door after another. Cleo tried moving on, but every no felt like a silent message. You messed with the wrong person. For a while, she wondered if she'd messed up. Maybe she should have kept quiet. Maybe she overreacted. Until a message changed everything. It was from Reagan Cole, the investigative journalist famous for exposing corporate power plays. I got your name. You're not alone. If you want to talk, I'm here. Cleo's heart pounded. Relief, dread, anger, all at once. Could someone finally be listening? She agreed to talk. No promises, no revealing names. She just wanted to say it aloud, to get the weight off her chest after months of swallowing it. The story dropped 2 weeks later, and it hit like an earthquake. Women spoke up, sharing eerily similar stories. Same lines, same pressure. All paths led back to Dominic. The public facade of the model CEO began to crack, slowly, but undeniably. Board members stepped down. Investors demanded answers. BlueNova issued a cold corporate statement. And Dominic disappeared from the radar. Cleo, on the other hand, started getting invites to speak. First small panels, then major events. Not as a victim, but as someone brave enough to break the cycle. A Silicon Valley foundation recruited her to head a Women in Tech program. She said yes. And there, in front of young women facing the same battles, she realized she hadn't lost. She was free. And Dominic? Well, people like him never vanish. They just wear new masks. But now, Cleo could spot those masks from a mile away. And more than that, she knew exactly how to rip them off. Because in the end, she learned the hardest lesson of all. Saying no might cost you opportunities, but accepting the unacceptable costs you your soul.